need help with that?
Hi everyone, I'm Bill. I really don't know how I'm feeling about performing tonight. See, I couldn't find my mood ring. And they're actually pretty hard to replace for someone like myself. You'd think they would just make them, for little girls or something. But anyway, I've actually done some comedy radio, that kind of stuff, but I'm used to having a straight person, straight man, someone to work off of, and so I hope you'll indulge me. This is my first time. I have a lot of friends of mine who are more professional comics, and then I think this is true in life. You got to know your boundaries, and so there are two things that I never joke about, and that's human space flight and Britney Spears. Okay, my background is I am a physicist and a philosopher, and went to school in Maine. And so what I was going to do was sort of try to explain and encapsulate sort of the meaning and how the universe works in about 15 minutes. But then a good friend of mine suggested maybe I should just talk about cats instead. Well, the reason why she mentioned that is because I know how to speak cat language, as I'm sure some of you do. My accent is atrocious. But no, I'm not really going to talk about cats. It's funny though, because I kind of actually speak cat language. Cats are pretty, they're sort of like half telepathic. Pets I have trouble with are dogs, because they're more half empathic, but they don't really know what you're thinking. They just sort of know how you feel. They're sort of, my mom thinks I must have been traumatized. So I have trouble communicating with dogs. I had a recent experience recently where I was at the YMCA in Andover, and it was the open swim. And there's sort of an interesting subculture where you swim laps, you go back and forth. And this other person, this gentleman in the lane with me, he started talking to me, because it's not quite like a bar, but you sort of sit there with your hands over the side of the pool deck, and he was speaking to me in Russian rather animatedly, and I don't know Russian well. I took a class in it at the Cambridge Adult Education Center, and it's a great place over there, but I didn't stick with me, I'm sorry. But anyway, so I at least could tell he was speaking to me in Russian, and he's going on, and so he's making all these motions. But it occurs to me that his problem is that his goggles are fogging up, and he doesn't know what to do. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And so I sort of mime it to him. I spit in my goggles, and I show him the trick where you spit and you rub and you wash it off. You can see it, and he swims. I'm like, can that work? Yeah. And he's like, so that's how I talk to dogs. Whereas with cats, it's like we're on the same page. But yeah. Anyway, so back to the universe. So I was at a school up in Maine where I did my undergrad. It's Colby College. It's out in the middle of the woods in Maine, and I did a lot of stargazing out there, and did a lot of talk radio. And I heard one of the other performers tonight talking about the end of the world and that kind of stuff, and that's something people ask me about too, because of how I have a lot of experience in training in physics, and I happen to know how the world will end, or at least I thought I did when I was an undergrad, because I'm class of 2000. I am, the only kind of millennialist you can be in the year 2012. What kind is that? A reformed millennialist. Yeah. But I used to have these radio shows where I just go on and talk about how, things were going to launch and all kinds of horrible things would happen. And then, fortunately, things worked out pretty well. And so I'm not too worried about this time around. But, so let's see here. Like I said, I do have some experience with physics, and physics can be fun. Some of my personal friends actually have won the Nobel Prize recently. Well, not recently, depends on your definition of recently. In the past 12 or 13 years. And part of the work I used to do down the street at MIT was doing lecture demonstrations for the physics department. And so I've had to pull famous professors out of the way of, it's funny. People who do a lot of theoretical physics sort of lose the intuition. I don't know. If you were doing an experiment that involved shooting a rifle in a lecture hall with students and the gun jammed, would you look down the barrel of the gun to see if the bullet was stuck? I had to stop our professor doing that in 2 separate non-consecutive occasions. And one of them actually did win the Nobel Prize. I'm not going to name names. He knows who he is. And he's a great guy. I don't want to take a lot of time up here. It's my pleasure to sort of get my feet wet. But I do want to, I do take a lot of this stuff pretty seriously because I'm a bit of a mystic at heart. So I'm going to leave you a little bit of a riddle. It's not quite a joke. And so it's a little koan. And it goes like this. So, how do you create a universe? That's the question. And the answer is, you ask if one exists. How else do you create something from nothing? A question which answers itself. So, thank you.